We were Triglavians, triangle people, right? Aliens. And this is a faction inside of the game. We decided as players to align ourselves with this, and we moved all over the game for about 1 year, traveling around with no home, going and fighting this war that went on to turn certain areas of space into lawless land, right? And we went all over the place. We took all these different stars, and it was fun. It was super awesome, but we didn't really have a home. We never had a place to live, and having ownership over your space in EVE is kind of a big deal. So when we got 27 stars, those stars formed into a place in space, a pocket dimension called Pochvin that looked like this. And we owned a full third of this, because as we had been taking these stars, we were dropping structures in them. And when it moved into Pochvin, those structures stayed, and now they couldn't be replaced. If a structure gets destroyed in Pochvin, it never comes back. You can never anchor a new one. It's gone. So these were unique, and we were the powerhouse that owned that space. The problem was this: it didn't work. It was broken. When we got to that section of space, they had one piece of content. This was called a dread site raid. The dread sites, for the first 2 or 3 months, did not function. Imagine going into a raid with 15 people, and you kill the boss, and then afterwards, the boss gives you negative reputation and negative money. That's what happened. And every week we would talk to the devs, and every week they would try to get us to test it on live servers again with our live characters for 2.5 to 3 months. We lost 70% of our online players. About half of these people never came back. It was a goddamn mess. And we got pissed. And eventually they finally fixed it, but then they put a target on our back because they have this thing inside of EVE Online called the economic report. The economic report actually tells you how much money each area of space actually makes. And they finally released the economic report 1 month after they fixed our area of space. So imagine 3 months of the game just being shit and us being broke and nothing working. And then 1 month later, they release an economic report after they fix everything. And now everyone thinks we've been making a shitload of money in a pocket of space that no one can touch us in. Yeah, and no other player will believe you because it's EVE Online. So yeah, that sucked. So that was cool to see. And the devs never actually put out a statement about this. They never told anyone that it was broken. So everyone thought we were lying about it, but we weren't, which was cool. So after that economic report came out, we're like, Jesus Christ, we started having to fight battles, and it was super annoying, but we got good at it. We managed to close all the wormholes in our area of space because wormholes would open up at random. We could stop people from coming in, and the only other way you could get in was through a filament. Well, every one of these systems that was on our side of space and all around Pochvin would require a certain amount of reputation to get through the gate. If you didn't have the reputation, you couldn't get in, right? So you had to use a filament that would teleport you into one of these locations randomly. So you could show up on our store, like on our doorstep, or you could show up in an area where you couldn't get to us. And that was it. And if we controlled our wormholes, you couldn't get to us anyway. So we had a good counterplay. But we had to constantly maintain this sort of behavior. Every day, we had groups. On the minute that wormhole would spawn, we would roll the wormhole. And this meant absolute regimented behavior. At all times, we had to be on staff. At all times, we had to have a scanner there and a group ready to destroy that wormhole when it spawned. And if we didn't do it, people would get it and kill us. So we got really good at it. We got very good at controlling our area of space, just like any other wormhole corporation would be. And then CCP, the creators of EVE Online, decided to change the rules. And they said, hey, we're going to focus on Pochvin for the next entire quarter of the game, which is the next 3 months. We're like, oh shit, they're going to fix some stuff. This is going to be awesome, right? Well, they didn't. They said the first thing we're going to work on is the access to the region. And we were like, that might be cool. Yeah, they just removed the reputation requirement on our gates. That was it. Suddenly, anyone in the game, anywhere in space, at any time, could teleport to our home. EVE Online is a game about distance. If you are far away from your opponent, they have inherent defensive capability because it's hard to get to them. We had no defense anymore, at all. People could just teleport to us and kill us at any time. And we went, well, time to have a war. And we had a war every single day for the next 2 months. Now, while this was going on, remember that one thing that I said with the dread sites that was our only form of income? There was an exploit that was found. The exploit was called seagulling. You could have 15 people in the group, and if you got to 16 people, that 16th person would make it so that all of the money that dropped, because it split evenly between people, wouldn't split evenly anymore. It would drop it by about 50% and then split evenly. So it crashed the shit out of our earnings. A player found out that if they go to the gate, which is kind of like the portal to the entrance of the dungeon, and shoot it, and then cloak up and fly away, they could then sit there cloaked until the NPC boss would say, I'm gonna die. And then they would just uncloak and they would count as the 16th player. When they removed the reputation standing for the gates, there were dozens of alts in every one of our runs. We went from making millions of ISK per player to thousands of ISK per player, which is the in-game currency. it destroyed us. So we started reporting this to Eve, like to CCP. We had over 300 reports in. We did this for months, and CCP never responded to it. So with all of this going on, with the game mechanics being changed to be against us, with them not fixing any of the exploits, I called it. And I said, enough is enough, guys. We've been fighting every day for months. This is bullshit. The devs aren't listening to us. It's time to burn it down. And we did. We burned our own home to the ground. We actually linked up with all the other Triglavian alliances in the game that were smaller than us, and we destroyed everything that we owned in the entire region. And no one could ever have it again because it wasn't replaceable. We burned it to the ground as a protest. And it worked. It worked really well. Everyone took notice. We left that area of space, and we went back out into high-sec space. And then new players moved into Pochvin, and they had to live out of NPC stations. You know what they did? They reported the same goddamn vulnerability that we did, the same exploit. And you know what CCP did? They said, I thought that was just a Strybog problem, which was our guild. And then they fixed it. I left the game. I'm never going to play EVE again. That kind of behavior is so above and beyond awful for the players. I can't get behind it. Like, I can fight another player. I can even fight another player's wallet, and we did many times in EVE. But I'm not going to fight the devs. That's bullshit. That's completely bullshit.